In my last video, I take a look at 3 main follow-up sub-DPS and compare how useful and easy to use they are to each other. Because of that, I have to take a look at things a bit more objectively and suppress my Topaz main instinct. Not here, baby! Time to liquidate all over them assets! Hello and welcome to a quick guide to Topaz. Topaz is a fire hunt character who specializes in making enemies chat themselves with extra follow-up damage and yeeting Nambi full force at them. Her role is a follow-up sub-DPS because her skill makes an enemy on the field a deader with the proof of death. Enemies with death will take a whopping 50% extra follow-up damage. She can switch the death around by smashing an enemy with her skill. Her basic is just a regular basic, but as a sub-DPS, she makes use of her basic a lot to generate skill points, so upgrading it is quite important. Also, A2 turned her basic attack into a follow-up attack, which I'll explain why that improved her basic by a lot later. Her talent is Nambi on the field. He has 80 speed and deals as much damage as her skill, which is 150% of her attack. I didn't say that when I was talking about her skill. Also, when the death is hit with a follow-up attack, Nambi action is advanced by 50%. This makes the synergy with other follow-up character even stronger because they help Nambi attack even more often. And for a little bonus, if Topaz got done with a crowd control debuff, Nambi will still attack as normal. Her ultimate is an enhanced ultimate, which boosts Nambi's damage by 150% and crit damage by 25%, which lasts for 2 Nambi's attack. The bad part is her skill is also a Nambi attack. So if you use her skill when Nambi is in a Basonga state, her ult state, it will reduce it by 1, which kinda sucks if you need to switch the death. Her technique lets Nambi walk around in the overworld. You don't need to use the technique, it will just be there when you have Topaz on screen. He will run around and track chests around the map and also attract other trotters, which is helpful when you are trying to get all the chests and trotter hunting. When you actually use the technique, she will regenerate 60 energy, and when you won a battle, you can get up to 10,000 extra credit per day, which is not the best in the world, but it's something if you're broke. But in the simulated universe, you will get extra cosmic Q fragment instead, which is very helpful, and you have a small chance of getting a curio. But by my experience, you will probably get a curio after you defeat the final boss. Major traitors! A2 turns her basic attack into a follow-up attack. This might seem like nothing much, but this massively improved Topaz's versatility, because now her basic attack boosts Nambi action, meaning that basic attack is a crucial part of her kit if you are using her as a sub-DPS. A4 increased damage to fire weak enemy by 15%, and A6 regen 10 energy after Nambi's attack in his ult state. Get A2 first, it buffs her capability as a sub-DPS into the sky. Then get A6, because it helps you set up the next ult after using an ult much quicker. And A4 is a nice damage bonus. For Trace priority, upgrade her skill first because that's where the death debuff is. Then her talent followed by her ultimate. And upgrade basic 2 because it's still very useful. Should you pull? It is quite a topic. So if you want the follow-up sub-DPS value, you can go watch my video on said topic. But TLDR, pull for Robin first, then if your Marsh or Mosher suck, then consider pulling for Topaz. E1 versus S1. E1 places more debuff on the dead enemy. Each stack will increase crit damage by 25% up to 2 stacks. So basically 2 extra debuff and 50% more crit damage. S1 increased her crit rate by 18% and follow-up damage by 30%. It also placed 2 stacks of debuff on enemies. Each stack increased crit damage by 12%. S1 is just more flexible, add more personal damage, and also increase crit damage for the team. E1 only increased crit damage for the team, so I would suggest go for S1 first for a more flexible Topaz. But if you have them both, you will have Topaz that can put 5 debuff on enemies basically all at once. So she will be the perfect partner for Dr. Ratio. The crit damage difference is 26%, but the personal damage makes up for it. Also, Topaz needs a lot of crit rate rather than more crit damage, so the LightCone provide that too. Speaking of LightCone, the best one is obviously her signature, but for a more wallet-friendly LightCone, Swordplay and Only Silence Remain are a great option. Swordplay is good because Nambi can get like full buff after just 1 attack, which boosts her damage by a lot. And Only Silence Remain is great for crit rate, but only when there is 2 or less enemies on the field. And Topaz really want crit rate. Stellar Sea is great too for its crit rate and attack boost. And the last good one I can think of is Final Victor, but crit damage is less valuable than crit rate. For her Relic, no surprise, 2 Inferno set is her all-round best set. But there's a niche case where the Deepwater Prisoner set can come out dealing more damage by around 3%. And by niche I mean Doctor Ratio. And Mature, I see you damn Mature. You will need 3 debuff on the enemies for the Deepwater set to be better than the Duke set normally. The Duke set will just be better than the 4-piece Deepwater unless you have her signature LightCone or E1, as I explained earlier. Because she can place 3 debuff on the enemies and you will get full uptime on her Relic set. 2-piece Duke and 2-piece Deepwater together also works very well. Almost the same as 4-piece Duke. For Planar Ornament, Duran is her best in slot, outperforming Salsato by a bit, but not far behind it is the Izumo set. But you need her in a dual hunt DPS team, which you're probably using her in a dual hunt DPS team already. And of course, Inner Salsato can be a follow-up character without Inner Salsato. Editor Carter here. I forgot to talk about the new Planar set from 2.5, which is the Sunken Sea set and the Amusement Park set. Lucasia is not that noteworthy. Topaz doesn't really need energy, but the Amusement Park set can work with Topaz. It gives out 16% crit damage and 32% more crit damage if there is a summon on the field, aka Numbi. However, as I stated and about to state it again, Topaz needs a lot of crit rate, 80 plus to be exact. More crit damage doesn't help that much if she is like 60% crit rate or lower. Not to mention that the Duran set buff her more with damage bonus and crit damage after using follow-up attack. For the main stat, go for crit rate body unless you can get around 80% or more, then you can consider crit damage. But Topaz really needs her crit rate. Speed boost, her breakpoint is 134 and 145 just like any character. So if you got there without a speed boost, you can use attack boost. Fire Orb is a bit better than Attack Orb, but either is fine. And lastly, Attack Rope. Energy Regen Rope doesn't really do her good. For the substat, speed until breakpoint, and then go for crit rate until 80% or more, then crit damage. Now for the fun part, who can be friends with her? Topaz can literally be put into any team with a character who can do a follow-up attack more than once in a while. Someone like Fei Xiao, Dr. Ratio, Hunt Mash, Moja, Yingli, Clara, Himiko, Erda, Jingyuan, and Kafka. Yes, even Kafka. They can all team with her and find medium to great success. You do need a crit Kafka though for full effectiveness. Or don't, I'm not your dad. For her support, Robin is the most obvious choice, but Runmei isn't that far behind. I saw someone testing it out. It's like one cycle in the hardest content in the game. So if you don't have Robin, Runmei is still perfectly fine with her. And other character with AoE buff tends to do great, like Asta or Yukong, whose buff doesn't get ticked down by Numbi's attack. So you can get more value out of her 2 turns buff. Sustain wise, Aventurine is also an obvious choice. But Ho-Ho and Fushuan is also a great option for energy and crit rate. And you know how much Topaz like crit rate. Aven is great in particular because he can boost Numbi. Finally got to talk about Topaz. So versatile, yet so many people downplay her value. Anyways, this is for my channel viewers now. If you're just here for the guide, you can click off now. This might be my last quick guide video unless a truly interesting character comes up. I like to work on this series because it's fun to do, but it takes a lot of time and it doesn't get as many views. With more works on my hand and less fun to be had making this type of content, and by work I mean real life work, I think it's better to switch to a more chill video instead. Maybe like just playing games or maybe talk about the character instead of making a informative guide video. Well, that's it. See ya.